I think this works better. Hi, everyone. I'm Dele Atanda. I'm CEO and founder of metaMe. So much talk about data these days. It being the new oil, the new resource. Data has effectively become money. But the problem is that we cannot own and spend data in the way that we do our money. And while there are grave concerns on how our data is used and spectacular opportunities on what it can do for us in the future, there are some real barriers to data marketplaces and data networks emerging at scale to really bring in the future that we're all seeking. And I personally believe the most important barrier here is the absence of a unit of account. If you look at any marketplaces or networks that scale, there's a pretty standard unit of account. So with petroleum, for example, we have the barrel. With gold, we have the ounce of gold. Even with abstract things like insurance, we have contracts or premiums, which are units of account. Now, you cannot have a marketplace that scales without a unit of account. So this is a real headwind for the data industry. Second, following on from that, without a unit of account, then there's very difficult to really exercise meaningful granular control or ownership over data assets, which results in silo lock-in, people keeping data in their own sort of proprietary places and not sharing it. And then the incentives to share tend to be quite binary. It's either share everything or nothing. And this basically disincentivizes people from sharing, which results in huge losses of value. Well, we believe we have a solution to this. We call this universal smart data. And in summary, what it is a means of containerizing data into these information objects that are cryptographic and that can be treated like units, like money, that are decentralized, i.e. self-sovereign, and private by design. Now, for us, we believe that the internet, the next generation of the internet, is fundamentally being underpinned by two critical asset classes: programmable money, which we're all talking about with cryptocurrencies and various tokens, and programmable data, which is our key innovation. We're structured really in two frameworks, really across networks and marketplaces. We believe, owing to the interoperability of these data assets that we create, that we are creating a true network of networks, whereby any network that, or any part of the internet that effectively runs our protocol becomes compatible with MPODs. So our focus is on three strategic sectors initially: mobility, media, and wellness, upon which we are then building a universal smart data marketplace that's cross-industry and cross-sector. So let's look at our specific wellness sector for a bit of a deeper insight. So let's look at the numbers. So currently, on average around the world, healthcare costs are rising at 12% per annum. GDP around the world, on the other hand, is rising at 3%. So there's really a perfect storm brewing between the cost of health and the rise of productivity. In the US, 17.9% of GDP went to healthcare costs, which translates to $4.7 trillion marketplace. So we're talking about a big, big market potential here. Now, current pain points for stakeholders in that marketplace is you can basically group stakeholders into payers, providers, and consumers. And typically, we've got issues around fragmentation of data, centralization from providers. There's issues around data quality, interoperability, access, all the things that you would typically expect to hear. And with consumers, of course, portability, the experiences, privacy, security, again, not insignificant subjects in this day and age. So typically, when you go to build a blockchain or wellness network, this is a model that we've learned here, which is really helpful, organizing, identifying who your stakeholders are. But there's a problem that comes back to this fundamental issue about data marketplaces, because essentially the intention is to get people to contribute data to this network, and for that data to be available for the whole network to share. But the issue is, how do you incentivize people to share data with competitors in an open framework where everybody has access to it? So what we end up with is these channels, these private channels above the network where we can therefore share sensitive information. But then you come back to the question, well, okay, if you've got a private channel for sharing information, then what value is the network with the underlying data within it? So at metaMe, we solve this problem by actually putting intelligence and access rights in the information asset itself, not in the network. So with these data objects, you can then assign rules to who can access the data, and more importantly, the actual data object itself can intelligently decide who it shares data with and who doesn't. So what this means is that you can create a network where participants can contribute all of their data into the network, but have it still remain confidential and secure, which means your network value grows considerably while still retaining confidentiality, privacy, and all the things that we are sensitive about as individuals and companies. So, execution-wise, our first app is a social login service. Again, a current theme we see in networks generally is, how do you recruit people? How do you recruit participants? metaMe particularly, we very much focus on the intersection between enterprise and consumer. So for us, onboarding consumers into a network is pretty critical. And so our first app is a social login service where we use the convenience of social login combined with the privacy and security of blockchain to give people a truly self-sovereign way to register or get access to services or to networks accordingly. And the advantages that this brings to payers is that you get reduced costs of onboarding people, much higher quality data. For providers, you have confidentiality for assets or information within the network, as well as interoperability and dynamic access. And of course, for us as end users or prosumers, there's easy onboarding, better privacy, security, and all the things that concern us. Our DAP2 framework really goes on then to exploit our marketplace. So for us, we see a significant amount of commercial upside in the marketplace, and whereby we allow these intelligent information objects to be traded in a safe, clean, and compliant manner. So when you look at that, if you look at the middle tier here, you see the benefits that the marketplace brings to participants around reduced cost, richer, better experience, better services, and greater interoperability. So let's look at the numbers. So in the wellness network, we are anticipating to grow 90 million users over the next 5 years, generating circa 14 million in network revenues and about 140 million in marketplace revenues. When you extrapolate that out across our other strategic verticals, you see 250 circa million users over 5 years, 40 million in network revenues, 360 in marketplace revenues. And that's important because when we talk about the meta opportunity, well, what we're really seeking now is anchor partners to join our network, our founding members to join the network. And that really comes in two guises. One is as members of our governance board, which we call Meta, as in the metaNet Ethical Technology Alliance. And in that context, we're looking for a maximum of 10 enterprises to join our network as governors to help shape the governance, or network operators who run nodes within the network and have access to all the data that flows through the network in that capacity. And what we are offering to founding members is revenue share in our network and marketplace revenues accordingly. In terms of the status of the network, so our whole protocol is underpinned by something that is called the Ethical Data Standard, which we are working with the British Standards Institute to codify into an ISO standard that we can use to audit and process how compliant people are with the data. This standard and protocol has recently been endorsed by the UN as one of its use cases in the sustainable use on ongoing digital trade. We've also, our framework has also been endorsed by Abu Dhabi in their cabinet office as part of their blockchain policy. Current founding members, of course, are metaMe, the Internet Foundation, and we're working with IBM to build out the network and framework. And we are, in terms of particular announcements, our DAP1 is we are looking at what's likely to be one of the largest healthcare networks, integrating it into it as a way to onboarding people with that. And we are launching an HR pilot with IBM internally for our DAP2 later this year. We are also fundraising, and we have equity and token-based funding opportunities. If anyone's interested in that, please find me or part of the team afterwards. So why join Meta now? Well, most importantly, to secure an option on the future. By joining as a founding member, there is no obligation to run pilots, but you already get a seat at the table to know what's going on. There's a sea change coming in regulation and public sentiment. I think you've heard it from many other people today around the sensitivities around data and the regulation that's coming according to it. And of course, there's an opportunity to lead your industry in terms of innovation in this space. And if all that doesn't matter or doesn't count, 40% or 40 times, 40x ROI or membership fees should make it attractive to you. So thanks again for your time. If you'd like to know any more, please come find me afterwards.
Thanks, Sally. We're out of time, but I'll just ask one question, because we've been actively looking for healthcare use cases, especially startups in the healthcare space. And as a data-focused company, you could do a lot of different use cases. Why are you excited about wellness when the people in that network are notoriously bad at working together? But why is this an exciting one for you to start with?
Two reasons. First reason is that the impact that you can actually have. So I think that the phenomenal thing is that data can transform wellness. I mean, you look at research, and as a general principle, the more information you feed research, the better the research is. So the ability of data to make a material impact in our lives is substantial through wellness. So that's very appealing from an impact perspective. I think also from the notion of people getting to get friendly and familiar with data and data ownership and data sovereignty, it's a particularly relevant field as well. Because quite often, if you're talking about advertising or brand experience, people don't quite connect with the importance and sensitivity of these issues. But with wellness, it's a different matter.
Great. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.